Hello and welcome to I24 News Sports Weekend Edition with some of the best stories we brought you in our daily magazine throughout this week. The biggest story was tennis with the men and women finals in the US Open. Anyone who put some money ahead of the tournament on the men's final, being Marin Cilic against Kei Nishikori, is now a very rich man. Very few people, if any, would have thought one of these two would make it to the final, but the fact that both were there, while other names like Djokovic, Federer or Wawrinka were out, was a huge surprise. The only problem is, in the final there can only be one winner, and it was the Croatian. Michael Friedman with a recap of what is already called the most surprising final in the history of Flushing Meadows.
The unlikely U.S. Open men's final showcased number 11 ranked Kei Nishikori versus number 16th ranked Marin Cilic. Nishikori upset the number 1 player in the world, Novak Djokovic, and Cilic upset the number 2, Roger Federer, in the semifinals. The Japanese player came into the match ahead of the Croatian with a 5-2 advantage, having won the last 3 matches. The two players met 3 times in the U.S. Open, as Nishikori won in 5 sets in 2010 and Cilic winning in 4 sets in 2012. The match started off well for Cilic, going up in the first set to win 6-3. The second set would not be a problem for the Croatian either, winning 6-3. Nishikori would try to come back in the third set, but Cilic would show his strength with a beautiful lob, leaving the Japanese player helpless. Cilic would then serve out championship point with a beautiful backhand winner. The Croatian would fall to the floor in celebration as he won his first ever Grand Slam. His friends and families were celebrating this meaningful victory. The fans in Croatia were watching intensely and would jump up and down in celebration as Cilic won the 3rd men's Grand Slam title. The fans danced in the street with flares and fireworks. Cilic's father was also extremely proud of his son as he watched from a bar in Croatia.
Emotions are overwhelming. I don't know what to say. This is phenomenal. This is great. It's crazy now out here. You can only see this here. You see Marin's friends and his supporters. Just phenomenal.
Cilic is the lowest ranked champion since Pete Sampras, who was 17th in the world at the US Open in 2002 in New York.
It feels amazing. I mean, there are no words to describe it, and for sure my life is gonna be completely different now. And before the tournament, it was miles and miles away to be even thinking about the Grand Slam trophy, especially here. I knew I was playing well, but to put it all together in 2 weeks after, like in all different conditions against so many good players, it was difficult to think about. And today I'm a Grand Slam champion among all these great players that we have in our era, and just feels absolutely amazing.
Despite the disappointing loss for Nishikori, he knows this was a great advancement for tennis in Japan.
I even see a lot of news from Japan, and it's great to bring great news to Japan. And tennis is not been biggest sport in Japan, so women's yes, but men's never make this far. So very happy to make another history, and great compliments, and hopefully I can win next time and have something more good result like this.
The Japanese fans were watching in hopes of winning their first ever title, but believe Nishikori will win a Grand Slam title for their country in the future. The match ended with Cilic winning 6-3, 6-3, and finally 6-3 again.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2014 U.S. Open champion.
The Croatian was crowned the 2014 U.S. Open champion.
Now to the women's tournament, and here on one corner it was Serena Williams, the world number 1, the defending champion, with 17 Grand Slam titles under her belt and in front of her home crowd. On the other corner, Caroline Wozniacki, the world number 10, looking for her first major. How did it end? Michael Friedman with the answer.
Serena Williams and Caroline Wozniacki met at the net with legendary Billie Jean King prior to the U.S. Open finals in Flushing Meadows, New York. Williams won the last 2 U.S. Opens, and Wozniacki hoped for her first Grand Slam. The closest she ever got was here in New York 5 years ago when she lost the final to Kim Clijsters. Williams also hoped for success in New York after failing to make it past the 4th round at any of the 3 Grand Slams this year. The world number 1 had an excellent run coming up to the final, not dropping a set all tournament. Heading into the match, Williams had the upper hand, winning 8 of the last 9 meetings over Wozniacki. The American was all over Wozniacki in the first set and went ahead early on, winning 6-3. The 10-seed Dane was looking stronger in the second set, but Williams would break and go up 5-3. Facing championship point, Williams looked composed and strong as Wozniacki hit a backhand long. The number 1 ranked player would take her 3rd straight U.S. Open title and now join Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova after winning her 18th Grand Slam singles title.
Yes, it was definitely the number 18. I just felt, I've been trying to reach it for so long, since last year, well, since the beginning of the year, and I really didn't think I would get there, and I just felt so good. It means a lot to me, you know. I just could never have imagined that I would be mentioned with Chris Evert or with Martina Navratilova because, you know, I was just a kid with a dream and a racket and living in Compton. You know, this never happened before, and, you know, I just never could have imagined that it could have ended, not ended, I'm just beginning.
Despite an impressive tournament, Wozniacki will have to wait at least until 2015 to take her first major Grand Slam.
I think we both went out there and we were both a little nervous, and I knew that I had to take the chance from the start, and I think we both raised our level in the second set, and it was just a little too late for me, and she also went out there and she was very aggressive from the start, so she didn't really let me dictate it the way I wanted to.
Williams is now within shouting distance of the all-time women's Grand Slam record of 24 held by Margaret Smith Court. After the match, the two players will continue their friendship throughout the night.
Yeah, we're going to hang out later tonight, so I definitely will buy the drinks.
Williams would beat her Danish friend in straight sets 6-3 and 6-3, and now look to continue her success in hopes of being the all-time women's Grand Slam winner.
Now we take a closer look at the man in charge of world football, Sepp Blatter. He's extremely unpopular among football fans throughout the world, but it's a different story inside the organization he heads. The Swiss is now looking to be re-elected for a 5th term as the president of FIFA, and it's quite difficult to see anyone who could win against him. Liz Barenbaum and Merav Savir try to understand the secret behind the force called Sepp Blatter.
At 78 years old, Sepp Blatter is always on the front page of international football. The most powerful man in Switzerland is officially a candidate for his own succession as the head of FIFA. Blatter is running for a 5th term, which is evidence he is meant to be in football.
You see, a mission is never finished, and my mission is not finished.
But behind the image of being a compassionate representative of international football, Sepp Blatter is known for his strategic and manipulative qualities. He is very confident about the support he receives from the football institutions.
I got through the last the Congress in St. Paul, in Sao Paulo, not only the impression, but the support of the majority, huge majority of national associations.
Son of a mechanic and former commander of an army regiment, he had an ordinary career until his 40th birthday. He was then spotted by Horst Dassler, heir of the German brand Adidas. The supplier placed Blatter inside FIFA, where he learned the behind-the-scenes of football. His reign has been unchallenged around the world of football since 1998. But all the scandals that happened gave Blatter a terrible image. The sale of tickets during the World Cup in Brazil and Qatar being handed the 2022 World Cup have made the headlines. The horrific workers' conditions at building sites in Qatar have caused a general outcry around the world. Last May, he acknowledged making a mistake by giving the World Cup to Qatar in 2022, but he defended his choice.
We have part of responsibility, but we cannot interfere in the workers' unions, workers' rights.
Despite his reputation, the Swiss promises new reforms to avoid other FIFA scandals.
We will put FIFA's ship on clear, transparent waters. It will take a little time, not one day to the other, but we will.
The man remains nevertheless mysterious. His own friends do not know his annual salary, as his greed for more power and glory keep him a mystery. But the president of FIFA is obviously a lover of football, and when he's not presiding over a meeting, he even tries to be funny. In October, Ronaldo was the target of one of his jokes.
He's like a commander on the field of play.
Blatter will participate in the upcoming election in May 2015. Jérôme Champagne, the former Secretary General Deputy of FIFA, is now running, but does not appear to be a threatening opponent. It is apparent that Sepp Blatter will not give up his seat of president for anything.
Club football will return this weekend from the international break, and the Champions League will begin next week. As always, the big clubs are favorites in domestic and international competitions, but UEFA is trying to create a more balanced competition by forcing the big clubs to spend less money. How do they do it, and what do the teams do in response? Lise Barnbaum and Michael Friedman with a story.
The news has surprised many in the world of football. The star striker of Monaco, Radamel Falcao, was sent on loan to Manchester United. The Colombian was signed by the French club just a year ago, and now on loan to the Red Devils for 12 million euros, with a buying option at the end of the season. High-profile loans have become a substitute for wealthy clubs who usually buy their stars. Manchester United, Real Madrid, and AC Milan have all sent great players on loan this year as a way to deal with the financial fair rules play. Since 2011, UEFA decided to force football teams to fix their finances. Teams whose expenses exceed their revenue risk serious penalties. For instance, PSG was required in May to pay a fine of 60 million euros. And in addition to the high penalty fee, the Parisian club can only have 21 players in the Champions League squad as opposed to 25 for its competitors. The president of PSG believes this policy is unfair and does not balance the difference between larger and smaller clubs.
In my opinion, the financial fair play is not just blocking the entry of new investors in football. It also protects the big clubs because they remain the big clubs and keep the small clubs small clubs.
Most managers of big teams in Europe agree with Nasser Al-Khelaifi. Chelsea's coach, Jose Mourinho, has also denounced the injustice of the financial fair play in the press. But this year, Manchester United could be overtaken by their buying frenzy and huge payroll. With 185 million euros put into their transfer market, the English club is being watched by UEFA. The loan of Falcao is a good compromise, and without paying too much money, the Red Devils have 1 year to test his worth. For the president of PSG, the UEFA policy does not help football. For him, investing in players is not a way to do business, but simply to solidify his team.
For us, for me, there's no business here with Paris Saint-Germain players. When you buy, it's really to believe in themselves and their qualities.
The top clubs in football have not accepted the financial fair play as they continue to find ways around the rules. All of the football leaders hope for a change in policy for the 2014-2015 campaign.
I hope that next year the UEFA will change the regulation because many clubs have complained about this regulation. I hope we'll find a solution for next year.
At a time when purchases of players cost tens of millions of euros, UEFA President Michel Platini will have to tighten his sanctions to enforce the financial law.
And Michael, you're here with us. You know, this move by UEFA, a noble cause, trying to create a more balanced league, a bit like the salary cap in the US. But do they stand a chance? We see how the teams manipulate around it.
It's a challenge. The fair play was implemented, and the goal of it is to make it more fair for all the teams and all the countries. But ultimately, the players know that they can go to other teams, and the salary cap, it's not stopping them.
Because let's see what Manchester United is doing. They say, well, we spent a lot of money on Di Maria this year, so we loan Falcao, and if he's good for us, we'll buy him next year when we don't spend that much.
Absolutely. By putting them on loan, it allows them to have an extra amount of money, and if it's seen that they're not, buying him, they'll be able to do more with those players in the future. And if they don't need him and he doesn't do well, they could just get rid of him this season.
Exactly, so they didn't even have to buy. If he's good, we'll buy him. If he's not good, we'll let him go.
Absolutely. Just take him, let him go, and then boom. They move on. A
good and noble cause by UEFA, not so sure it will be implemented.
It's a challenge.
We saw earlier the story of Sepp Blatter, very unpopular among world football fans, but we did see that the World Cup in Brazil created major interest. We all watched it on TV. Some were lucky enough to go there. It will be the same story with Russia, even with Qatar. Yep. So basically, FIFA can do what they want, and Blatter can do what he wants.
Sepp Blatter is not popular amongst the fans, and despite everything that goes on with the corruption, you see people watching the games, going to the World Cup. It's not gonna
It's football. We love it even if the men on top are corrupt and we're not doing much about it. Let's face it.
No, there's really very little for us to do. If the fans started protesting and not going to the World Cup and money wasn't, being spent, then there would be a change at the top. But until the regular people go and, make the change and ask for the change, it's going to continue to be what it is today.
Yeah, we'll have to see if someone does it. So far, it's not happening. Michael Friedman, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for this Weekend Edition. Don't forget you can watch us anytime on our website at i24news.tv. Also on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.